Welcome to this week's episode of Biz Success in 15, where top experts share hot tips and strategies that you can implement in as little as 15 minutes to build your dream business. And now here's your host, the Visibility Wiz, Cindy J.
Hi, I'm Cindy J, the Visibility Wiz, and welcome to this episode of Biz Success in 15, where top experts share hot tips and strategies that you can implement in 15 minutes or less to build your business. And our guest today is Marjorie Saulson. She's a business communication coach, and she was named both the 2017 Top Speaking Coach of the Year and the 2018 Top Motivational Speaker of the Year by the International Association of Top Professionals. Marjorie empowers reluctant speakers, entrepreneurs, experts, coaches, and authors to feel calm and confident in any speaking situation, whether they're speaking to one person or to thousands. Welcome, Marjorie. It's a pleasure to have you.
And it's an honor to be here. I appreciate the invitation.
Thank you. I'm so excited to speak to you about speaking,
Yes.
because speaking is such a vital part of any business, because even if you're speaking one-on-one to a potential client or you're speaking to a group of 20 people, you still need to know how to speak. Before we begin speaking about speaking, I'd love to know if you can share a business or personal challenge that you had to overcome in order to achieve your level of expertise.
Well, let me give you a little background for a minute. First of all, public speaking is the number one fear on most people's list of fears.
Mm-hmm.
The definition of public speaking is not simply giving a speech, which is what everybody thinks of. It's anytime you speak to somebody other than yourself. So my big public speaking problem or whatever when I started business is that I was horrible at networking. And networking is one of the crucial ways that you can start building your business, going to events. It's not simply going to events. You run into an old friend, they say, so what are you up to lately?
Right.
Networking too. Or you start chatting to somebody in the line of the grocery store. Those I didn't have a problem with, but going to an official networking event, hugging the wall, not knowing how to get involved in starting to talk to people. I had a totally wrong idea of what networking was about. I thought it was to sell people things and found out, no, that's not it. You're building relationships. You're building relationships with people who might possibly be potential clients, but they might also be great referral sources. And you're there to help other people. I remember one event I was at, I met somebody who was just starting out and she needed a website. And 20 minutes later in the same event, I met somebody who was a website designer. So I said, come with me.
Right.
So it's giving service to other people. It's building relationships. And until I got that into my head, I was terrible at it.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And another thing, with networking too, is you never know who you might meet that you can collaborate with down in the future. I mean, I've met wonderful people over the years that I've actually been able to collaborate with. And had I never made those initial relationships, the collaboration never would have happened.
No, and the thing is that I always feel that when I'm speaking with somebody, and then they may not ever be, a client of mine, but I'm planting a seed for the future. Every relationship not only expands your community, but it's planting seeds. You're right. For down the road, you never know who will turn out to be helpful, or somebody will be talking to a friend of theirs who has a horrible problem that you
Right. And whoever you're speaking to, they may or they may not ever become your customer or
That's right.
your clients. However, if you just tell somebody, like if I just tell somebody, hey, I'm Cindy J, the Visibility Wiz, and you and I have recently met, and tomorrow you're talking to somebody and they're like, yeah, I'm looking for somebody who can help me with visibility. You're like, I know the person, just like you did in the networking event where you connected to people.
Yeah,
So
sometimes it's not instantaneous. It could be down the road.
yeah, I know. I've had,
For a year.
Yeah.
But if you build the relationships of trust, those referrals will come.
Yes. And I love that
It's a long game. It's a long game. It requires patience.
And I love that you say, that speaking's not about selling, because so many people think that's what it is.
No.
And also, what is it about speaking in itself that makes people so darned afraid?
Well, it's not a physical fear because nobody thinks that a lightning bolt is going to come out of the ceiling and hit us in the head.
Mm-hmm.
No fear. We're afraid of being criticized. We're afraid of being rejected, and we're afraid of failing.
Yes.
And the thing about criticism, I think criticism is the way, we were civilized into civilized adults. Criticism was the method of choice for many parents and teachers. And so, we're very sensitive to criticism. And there's two things I want to share about that. One, I remember coming home, I learned this from my husband. I came home, I was really upset about somebody who'd said something to me that was really upsetting. And my husband said to me 3 words. He said, consider the source. Is this somebody who, and so really, if you think about it, is this a Billy Bully or a Sally Sniper who's always after everybody? Is this a person whose opinion you respect?
Mm-hmm.
If not, forget it. The other thing is, and unless you think you know absolutely everything in the world about whatever you're talking about, maybe whatever that criticism is happens to be what I call a good idea dressed up in unfortunate clothing. It may be a gem there that can help enhance how you think, how you operate. Rejection piece is kind of the same way. I mean, unless you think that absolutely every single person in the world needs what you have to offer, you couldn't handle that many people anyway. The fact of the matter is that I consider every offer that I make to be kind of a sorting mechanism. It'll be right for people, and it won't be right for others. So the whole trick with rejection is not to take it personally. It has nothing to do with you, unless, of course, you do a lousy job of presenting whatever you're presenting. It may be that this person isn't a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of rejection, then you kind of look, am I really presenting? I have to present in a way that's engaging and compelling and interesting and resonates with the right people. Sometimes you look at that as a way of figuring, well, I got to upgrade how I share what I do. And then, of course, failure. We all hate to fail.
Right.
But the reality is, and think about it, you don't expect to play center court at Wimbledon after a few tennis lessons. You don't expect to play a Beethoven sonata after only 2 months of piano lessons. To fail is a required stepping stone to success. And I personally believe that nothing is a failure as long as you learn the lesson it has to teach you.
Mm-hmm.
Every failure is the seed of a lesson to be learned. And so you can either allow failure to be a stop sign or a stepping stone, and you get to choose.
I love that. You get to choose whether it's a stop sign or a stepping stone. Brilliant, brilliant.
Thank you.
And what does the fear of public speaking really cost people?
It costs really on a couple levels. First of all, and I've experienced this, and maybe you have too, every time that you don't share something or say something that you really want to say or share, you end up beating yourself up afterward. Why didn't I do that? I missed this big chance because I was too afraid to open my mouth. So we end up beating ourselves up. That's a personal cost. And the reality is each of us has gifts to share with other people. And every time we keep silent, we are cheating people who need what we have to offer. We really are.
Mm-hmm. That reminds me, I'll never forget this. And it was who I was back then that I didn't speak up, but I would speak up today because I'm an avid believer, that we're teaching our children some really bad things. But I was in my gynecologist's office, and there was a mom and a dad and a little girl. She was maybe 10 months to 13 months. She was learning how to walk. And every time she would get up and walk and fall, the parents would laugh and laugh at her and go, "You're so clumsy." And I remember I was cringing, like sitting there cringing, thinking, why are you teaching this child that she's clumsy? That you should be cheering her on. Yay, you did it, right? Instead of telling her.
She's learning how to balance herself,
Exactly. And I thought it was just so horrible, but I wasn't able to speak up at that time. And, now I would, but back then I just wasn't in me. So I understand like that fear of speaking again. I was thinking, well, who am I to tell these people how to parent their kids?
Well, that is in the best of times. That's a really tricky thing to do.
Right. But
I'm trying to think of what you could possibly say.
I could have said something. Yeah.
Yeah. Mind your own business. It might be a possible reply.
In business, and I think too, it's sort of knowing yourself and knowing how you can start approaching something.
May I make a suggestion?
Yes.
That is a wonderful way to make a suggestion. You ask permission.
All right.
Suggestion. And then you shut up. You do not say a word. And I must have had to wait 5 minutes, but everybody has always said yes to me because people are curious. And in that case, you could use an iMessage. From what I've read about children's maturational development, falling down and getting up again is the way they learn to balance themselves. So actually, I think your daughter's doing a wonderful job.
Right. I love that. But that is, always a great way is, may I make a suggestion?
Great. And the thing about it is tone of voice is crucial. May I make a suggestion? No, stay away from me.
Yeah.
May I make a suggestion?
To move on, I know a lot of times people are thinking, if I'm up on stage and somebody asks me a question that I can't answer, even if I'm speaking one-on-one with somebody and I can't answer it, what do I do?
Okay, the very first person who asked me this for a solution to this problem was a guy in corporate America, and he said he would sit through every meeting dreading being asked something he couldn't answer because it would ruin his chances for a raise or advancement. So I had to come up with a system, because the other thing is that people don't do Q&A calls on, for courses because they're afraid of this, or they won't speak in public. I came up with a system. It's a 4-letter system, ACED, ACED, like I aced the test.
Uh-huh.
The A stands for acknowledge, and you hear people do this all the time. That's a very good question. Mm-hmm. It's an interesting question. Nobody ever asked me that before. That kind of sets up, nobody ever asked me that before is a good setup for the next part. So then the C is for clarify. The fact is that sometimes people ask questions that are so vague and so broad, they're impossible to answer. Mm-hmm. So clarification. I'm not really sure what you mean by that question. Could you give me an example of a specific example so that I could come up with a better answer for you? Then, if you have not channeled the answer once you get the clarification, the E stands for elicit. If you're in a group of people, you see if you can elicit the answer from somebody else. This is an area that I really haven't given a great deal of thought. I haven't studied this area. Is there anybody else here who could answer this question? And by the way, and if nobody else is there, you have to skip that step.
Right.
Or you can say, that's not something I've ever thought about before. Have you come up with some ideas about how to answer that? Mm-hmm. And then the D stands for either deliver. All of a sudden, you channel the answer from the spheres and you deliver it, or you delay. That is something I'm going to have to investigate. I really need to get back to you on that because that's not an area of my expertise. So I need to check with somebody else. Now, what's interesting, people hate to say they don't know something. Our egos are so fragile. We don't want to say we don't know something. When you honestly tell people that you don't know the answer to something and you're going to look it up and get the information, that actually increases your expert and authority status. Why do I say that? Because people know if you say you can't answer something, that when you do answer anything, they know it's the truth as you understand it and know it.
Right.
The trust factor goes through the roof when you are truly honest. And as one of my mentors once said, everybody's BS meter is always on.
Right.
Kind of, fake it, people pick up on that. So when you're honest about that you need to get more information, people respect that and they respect you.
And I think there's such a fake it till you make it. I think there's like a difference, because I know that we can change our emotions. And so when I sold Tupperware for years back in the day. And our Tupperware convention, we used to have to go to this big meeting every week. And there was like, I don't know, 500 to 1,000 people there. And our leader, she used to always make us stand up and go, act enthusiastic and you'll be enthusiastic. Act enthusiastic and you'll be enthusiastic. Act enthusiastic and you'll be enthusiastic. And if you stand up and you say that 3 times, you're going to shift. So you're going to start feeling more enthusiastic. So with, the fake it till you make it, you can really, there's so many tricks to utilize it, but naturally you want to do that before you're speaking or before you're in the meeting.
Yeah.
So I think, but as far as to fake that you know something, I don't think you should ever do that. But I think with feelings, we can shift our feelings and our moods.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And the next question, even about questions, is what if you just plain don't want to answer the question that they ask for whatever reason? What do you do then?
Okay, well, there's a couple of reasons. One, if it's that is totally outside of my area of expertise. I need to refer you to somebody else. And if it's something that is none of their business, you just say that I'm not comfortable speaking about that. I don't care to discuss that. That's privileged information.
Mm-hmm. And so if it's something personal, I mean, I'm an extrovert, but I know there's a whole lot of introverts out there that are a lot more leery about what gets out about their personal lives and stuff. So I would assume people ask questions about your personal life. And if you don't answer it, is that going to make somebody not trust you? Or is it perfectly okay to say, I'm just not comfortable answering that, or that's privileged information?
Well, the thing is, you can say, I really draw a line of separation between my personal life and my business.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope you'll respect that.
Yeah, and that's a great line. Like I said, I don't have that problem, but I know a lot of people do.
No, and the reality is some people ask questions that are so outrageous, and they know they're outrageous that you can just kind of give them a look.
Right.
Like, I can't believe you asked that.
Yeah. And also, especially if you're going to speak in public or even on a telesummit or a webinar. I know some people, before they get on a webinar, before they get on a podcast, their nerves start acting up. I know mine did. The very first time I was live on camera, I was on Huffington Post Live with a panel of experts, and I know I was nervous. So what can you do? What can you do to ease those nerves?
Well, first of all, don't expect not to be nervous. Mark Twain said there are 2 types of speakers, those who are nervous and those who are liars.
Right.
So understand that being nervous is totally natural. Now, if you are somewhere where you're not going to be seen too much, start yawning very widely. And first of all, it fills your body up with oxygen, which is helpful. Second of all, it gives you feel nerves in your body. So what you want to do is you want to give your body a message that you're safe. So when you start yawning, your body gets the notion, well, there's no tiger chasing me because I wouldn't be yawning. and the other thing is that you can do is, for me, when I get nervous, that my mouth always gets really dry. And the trick that I learned when I was studying voice acting is, and if you don't know what a voice actor is, that's, the people who do the voiceovers for commercials or tell you to watch your luggage in the airport. If you rub your tongue on the roof of your mouth, and this happens if you're thirsty anyway and you can't get to water, this is a wonderful trick. When you rub your tongue on the roof of your mouth, it gets the saliva going. Now the thing is not to do it like this. Can you see me? But you can do it without really having it show. And I every time I have to perform or chant, I chant services at my synagogue, or if I'm giving a talk, I have to do it. I still
I
get
love
nervous.
that because my mouth gets really dry too. I've never heard that tip, and I absolutely love that. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, well, keep hydrated too. I mean,
Pardon me?
Keep hydrated too. But even though I work very hard at staying hydrated because I'm a singer, and that's very important for singing, well speaking, I still get the dry mouth.
Yeah, I drink lots of water, but yeah, so I typically am hydrated. It's just I think the nerves sometimes. And Marjorie, I could speak to you all day about speaking, but since we're on a time limit here, next, can you share a strategy that our listeners can implement in 15 minutes or less to build their business?
Absolutely. There's an old saying that we do not plan to fail, but we often fail to plan. So what I have found is very helpful when I have a project or something, I take time, this is more than 15 minutes, to really work out all the pieces and the steps and so forth. But at the end of every business day, or sometimes in the evening, before I leave my office, I sit down and I plan out my next day. First of all, I figure out all the appointments, and then I list what are the most important tasks for me to get done, and I list them in order of importance. So if it turns out that life happens, which it often does, and you don't get to everything, I hardly ever get to everything on my to-do list. I have this ambitious kind of notion of how much I can get done. But when you get the very first thing done, when you start the morning knowing what your day is going to be, you can start your day so much more efficiently. And then when you know what your number one most important task is and you get it done, it sets you up not only in terms of business stuff, but it sets you up emotionally for the day, knowing that you are really taking control of your actions and moving in the direction that you want to move.
I love it. And it's so important to feel in control. When you feel in control, things seem to go so much more smoother.
They absolutely go more smoothly.
And Marjorie, I know that you have a wonderful gift for our community. Can you share what that is?
Yes, it's an ebook entitled Communicate with Confidence, Attract More Clients and Score More Sales. And it does have more in there about dealing with criticism, rejection, and failure. And it's actually 10 different strategies for communicating effectively, both in terms of, the three-legged stool of effective communication is covered, what I call the what, how, and allow. What's your message? How are you presenting it so that it's engaging? And are you allowing yourself, getting over the fears of doing it? So, and there is, by the way, a bonus pathway that I ended up adding on as get your nerves to serve you instead of sabotage you.
I like that.
It's communicate with confidence. And I think that people will find it very helpful because there's a lot of juice in there.
I love it. Absolutely love it. And it is just learning how to be confident, and that only comes from practice. So to all of our listeners, you want to head on over to bizsuccessin15.com/Marjorie. That's all lowercase MARJORIE. So bizsuccessin15.com/Marjorie, and grab your complimentary ebook, Communicate with Confidence. Start utilizing the strategies, and you will watch your confidence grow.
Yes, and thank you for spelling my name, because people manage to do all kinds of variations. MARJ, not G, JORIE.
Yes, you're very, very welcome. And Marjorie, do you have any parting words for our listeners?
Yes, and it goes along with something I referred to earlier. According to my tradition, which is the Jewish tradition, we are God's partners in the repair of the world. What that means is that we each have one little piece of the world. It's our obligation, responsibility, our life purpose to repair. And so it's really important to come into the power of your voice, because when you start verbalizing things, that's when things start to happen. I named my company Vibrant Vocal Power because I think it's really important that we all come into the power of our voice, share our gifts, repair our part of the world, and live a life of true meaning.
Wow, that is so, so, so beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's
My
totally been a
pleasure.
pleasure having you here today, Marjorie.
It was my pleasure to be here, and I thank you again for the invitation. And I hope that what I've shared is of true service to all of your listeners.
I'm sure that it was. You're repairing your little piece of the world there. And
Yeah.
to our listeners, if you enjoyed today's show, feel free to share it with your friends. And you'll want to visit bizsuccessin15.com/Marjorie, MARJORIE. And you're going to find all links from today's show. You can re-listen to Marjorie's words of wisdom and catch up on past episodes that you might have missed. And while you're there, be sure to grab your complimentary ebook, Communicate with Confidence. So I hope you have a great week, and be sure to tune in next week with another great guest. Big hugs and bye-byes.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Biz Success in 15. For all links mentioned in today's show and to watch or listen to previous episodes, visit bizsuccessin15.com. Thanks so much for listening, and be sure to tune in next week for another amazing guest.